A day after announcing 25% tariffs on imports from India, Donald Trump has dropped another bombshell. That's correct, he's hit out at India and Russia together. He has said he does not care about New Delhi's dealings with Moscow and that the two can take their dead economies down together. I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way, Trump said in a post on his Truth Social platform. In a fiery move, US President Donald Trump has slapped a 25% tariff on Indian goods effective the 1st of August, calling India's trade barriers strenuous and obnoxious. Now, Trump also announced an additional penalty targeting India's energy and defense ties with Russia. Despite praising PM Modi as a friend, Trump warned that India's high tariffs and BRICS alignment are in fact a threat to the US dollar. But he has also hinted that talks remain underway. Meanwhile, India's Commerce Ministry says it's studying the impact and remains committed to a fair trade deal. Now, the escalation comes just weeks before US officials visit New Delhi for the next round of trade talks.
US President Donald Trump has said that Washington will impose a 25% tariff on all Indian exports to the US and a separate unspecified penalty, citing India's high trade barriers and continued purchases of oil and weapons from Russia. The tariffs are scheduled to take effect on August 1st, putting months of negotiations for a bilateral trade deal in jeopardy.
Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now, they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter too much whether we have a deal or whether we charge them a certain tariff. But you'll know at the end of this week.
In another post, Trump stated, and I quote, "We have a massive trade deficit with India," unquote. Trump's move comes after a 90-day pause to negotiate individual deals during which the US signed agreements with the UK, Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines and the European Union. India has pushed back. In a measured statement, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry said that the government is studying the implications of Trump's announcement and remains committed to securing a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade deal. Delhi also referenced India's recent comprehensive economic and trade agreement with the UK, underlining New Delhi's push for global trade partnerships on its own terms. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has repeatedly said that India will always prioritize its national interest and buy oil from whichever country offers the best price. With just a day to go for the August 1st deadline to expire, the world's two largest democracies are staring down a major trade rift. The question remains, can a trade deal still be salvaged in time? With Ridhima Kedia, NDTV World.
Apple's ambitions to make India a major export hub for iPhones may face a serious blow following US President Donald Trump's decision to in fact impose a 25% tariff on all Indian goods starting the 1st of August, along with an unspecified penalty for doing business with Russia. My colleague Vishal unpacks the details.
Well, this is clearly a blow to Apple's India export hub ambitions. So Apple has been trying really hard to make India the export hub for iPhone. Because a lot of statistics and a lot of comments from Apple's side have indicated that in the recent past, in the last 1 year or so. So that is definitely a blow. And the impact on iPhone manufacturing expansion in India could be seen any time because in the last 1 year or so, the expansion has been seen on the ground. Just a few days ago, there was a report that stated that India has sent record number of smartphones to the US, so that could also take a hit. And just to give you a scale of the damage that could be done, in April to June quarter of this year, all the iPhones sold in the US were exported from India. So that this comment was made by Tim Cook himself, the CEO of Apple. So these things could also be affected. And to move forward, US makes up to 25% of iPhones shipment for Apple to the US, which comes to around 60 million units per year. So that could also be affected. And what could be the challenge now? So higher the cost on India assembled iPhones, the lower number of exports there could be. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, that India has been becoming sort of hub of Apple iPhone manufacturing. India is slated to transport as much as 60 million units is what Apple is aiming. That could be a challenge now. And Indian electronics is already under pressure. Several reports suggest that there could be varied reasons for that. The first one is restrictions on critical components supply by China. That has been playing out for a while because China has imposed some crucial restrictions on components that are required to make this electronic equipment. In that category, Apple iPhone also falls. So these restrictions would definitely play out and have some detrimental effect on export of iPhones to the US from India.
US President Donald Trump has announced a deal with Pakistan to harness the oil reserves, announcing that he will in fact be choosing an oil company to lead this partnership shortly. Now, Trump has once again taunted New Delhi, quipping that maybe he will sell oil to India someday through Pakistan. Now, that's a remark that comes amid heightened tensions between New Delhi and Islamabad after the Pahalgam attack. Across the northern border, Canada has officially joined a growing list of Western nations preparing to recognize the state of Palestine. PM Mark Carney says the move could be formalized at the UNGA as soon as September this year. Now, this if the Palestinian Authority holds democratic elections in 2026. But there's a caveat here, viewers. They will only do this if Hamas is excluded from this so-called democratic exercise. Now, this follows similar announcements by France and the UK now as global pressure mounts for a two-state solution to end the Israel-Palestine conflict. Countries like New Zealand and Australia, meanwhile, may follow suit after signing a joint declaration backing Palestinian statehood. But Israel, on its part, well, it's pushed back sharply, calling the move dangerous and hypocritical. Meanwhile, with over 60,000 lives already lost in Gaza since the war began, the diplomatic stakes at the UN are rising rather fast.
The reasons I cited earlier, Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part.
Meanwhile, my colleague Maha Siddiki gets you the latest from Canada's Vancouver.
The G7 countries are going forward and announcing their intention to recognize Palestinian statehood. And Canada becomes the third country in G7 after France and the United Kingdom to announce that intention of recognizing Palestine in the upcoming United Nations General Assembly in September. Now, we do know that the US has a totally different view on this at the moment as far as the two-state solution is concerned. And this was addressed by Prime Minister Mark Carney today in the press conference when he said that the only possible solution for peace in that region was a two-nation solution, which he says is now eroding before our eyes. And he also, when asked a question about whether it's a critique for Israel, said that facts were being changed on the ground through the statements, policies, and actions. And that is the reference to Israel over there. And that is why, out of necessity, this decision has been taken. And he believes that this is a collective decision as of now by countries from the G7 who are step by step coming forth and making this decision. And therefore, there is strength in that collective decision. So in some sense, giving us an idea of where Ottawa would be vis-a-vis Washington, D.C., which was your question with regards to this decision of Canada that was announced today, a big decision by Canada to recognize Palestinian statehood in the upcoming UNGA. But there are commitments they've sought from the Palestinian authorities that they will hold elections in 2026 without Hamas.
Shifting focus to Southeast Asia, where South Korea's presidential office has announced that a tariff deal has been reached with the United States, which will help eliminate economic uncertainties for its export-reliant economy. Presidential Chief of Staff for Policy Kim Yong-bum said in Seoul that the reciprocal tariff the US is set to impose on South Korean goods from the 1st of August is lowered to 15% from the 25% that it earlier announced. Kim also noted that there will be expansion in shipbuilding between the US and South Korea. Shifting focus to America's western coast, where the U.S. Navy has said that an F-35 fighter jet has crashed near the Naval Air Station Lemoore in central California. Now, a statement from the Lemoore base has said that the pilot successfully ejected and is safe. There are no additional affected personnel. That's what we're picking up right now. Over in Washington, Senate Democrats are invoking a nearly century-old rule to demand the release of the Jeffrey Epstein-related documents from the Department of Justice. Now, led by Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrats use the obscure Rule of Five, which in fact compels agencies to release information if 5 committee members request for it. They say that the Trump administration has repeatedly failed to deliver transparency and are now giving the DOJ only until August 15 to in fact comply with this demand. Now, the files could shed new light on Epstein's ties to powerful figures, including President Trump. Meanwhile, pressure is also going across the aisle, with some Republicans now breaking ranks to demand answers. Schumer, meanwhile, says the evasiveness is alarming and also hints at legal action if the request is denied. Trump's top envoy Steve Witkoff is traveling to Israel today to tackle the deepening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza enclave. It's his first visit in months and comes as ceasefire and hostage talks remain in limbo, or stalled as it's being called. Witkoff is expected to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu's top aides and may also very well visit Gaza aid centers directly. The White House, meanwhile, says Trump wants first-hand updates to determine how to get more U.S. assistance to civilians in Gaza. Now, meanwhile, talks with Hamas are ongoing, but Israeli officials say progress is unlikely. It's a line that they have been constantly maintaining since ever after the October 7 attacks in 2023. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Israel and the US are also exploring tougher alternatives, including a possible escalation or even partial annexation of Gaza if this gridlock indeed continues. The UN has warned of the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where limited aid deliveries and ongoing fuel shortages are intensifying hunger and malnutrition. Here's more.
The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that 4 days since the start of tactical pauses in Gaza declared by the Israeli authorities, we are still seeing casualties among those seeking aid and more deaths due to hunger and malnutrition. Parents continue to struggle to save their starving children. In a social media post, UNICEF said that this is a condition that we can prevent and called for increased humanitarian access. Aid workers in Gaza have not been spared.
Recent tragic news from Pakistan, where German Olympic champion Laura Dalmaya has died in a mountaineering accident on the Lela Peak at an altitude of 5,700 meters. The 31-year-old former biathlon star was struck by falling rocks during a climb in the Karakoram range. Her climbing partner has survived, but rescue efforts were called off due to bad weather. Dalmaya, meanwhile, made history at the 2018 Winter Olympics, winning 2 golds and a bronze in biathlon before retiring, in fact, at just 25 years. And known for her humility and passion for the outdoors, Dalmaya had requested not to be recovered if lost in the mountains. Meanwhile, tributes keep on pouring in for a true champion with heart, courage, and vision. The political firestorm, meanwhile, is erupting after Donald Trump sanctioned Brazil's top Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, accusing him of leading a witch hunt against Trump ally and former President Jair Bolsonaro. The US Treasury says Moraes violated human rights through censorship and political trials. But Brazilian leaders, well, across the political spectrum, have condemned the move as foreign interference and a direct attack, in fact, on Brazil's democracy. Meanwhile, President Lula's government is hitting back, calling the sanctions absurd and even dangerous. Even conservatives in Brazil say Trump has crossed the red line.